Okay, so I just want to say that I am very pleased that His Excellency the President has established a mechanism for the compensation of victims of riots and protests starting in 2017, January 1st to July 31st, 2025. This is a long period, and we thought that it was important to do this so that we could respond to the cries of the families that were affected, their loved ones, but also to establish a baseline from which we can start to reset our human rights culture in the country. It's a very important initiative. As you all probably know, it is unprecedented, it's historic, and it's not really happened anywhere else in Africa or virtually anywhere else in the world. So we want to say that we are setting a new standard with respect to human rights, and as I'm speaking to you now, we are establishing the actual panel itself.
Interest litigation advocate. We've heard that President Ruto appointed Professor Makau to lead the compensation of the demonstrators who are injured or even named during the Sabasaba and the 24th when Kenyans were questioning the killing of Juang by police officers. We are saying that the President does not have power either to establish the fund or even a legal framework to operationalize it. And therefore, in the next few days, we will be filing a petition challenging the position of Makau and that particular committee to compensate anyone. It is very clear that Parliament must be involved in such a thing. People's participation has not been undertaken, and therefore we fear that this will be another hustler fund type of fund to compensate people. And we also do know that once you compensate, you accept criminal liability because people who are killed, people who are maimed, people who are brutalized and tortured, and therefore in very few days we are telling Makau see court.
And when is that?
Probably next Monday, Tuesday, wakati tumerudi Nairobi ndio tutawasilisha kesi hiyo kupinga uteuzi wa Bwana Makau na mtu mwingine yeyote atakayeketi kwa hiyo tume ili kuwalipa watu fidia. Tunasema rais hana uwezo wa kutengeneza jopo kama hilo ama fidia, na hivyo tutaenda mahakamani na kuuliza maswali. Asanteni sana.
Sawa.
Drafted the terms of reference, which we are refined. We have reached out to possible members of the panel, who include also technocrats who will be working with us. As you know, we've been given a mandate for 120 days, and so we must really hit the ground running as soon as possible, so that within that period we will have done compensation to those affected Kenyans, so that we can respond to that.
Maybe how many families are responsible?
It is difficult to know for now, but I just want to say that there are institutions and organizations that have records of those affected. So we expect to get a lot of data from IPOR, the Independent Policing Officer of the Whole. We expect to get a lot of data from the International Commission on Human Rights, and also from organizations such as Amnesty International, the Kenya Human Rights Commission, obviously from the National Police Service. They also have their records. So we'll get those names first, we'll identify them, we'll verify them, and we'll start compensating them almost immediately after verification. We are going to I think publish the names that we have, so that if people do not see their names on that list, they'll be able to come forward and file a claim with us, which we shall then process.
When is the committee starting?
We expect to announce the actual establishment of the committee next week.
Critics have argued this is against what you've stood for in many areas, especially when you are teaching the human rights. What do you have to say about it?
Actually, the opposite is true. I have always championed for transitional justice. If you remember, I think you're too young to remember this, but in 2003, I was the chairperson of the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission, which was appointed by President Kibaki. It was that task force that laid the basis for the formation of the Truth Commission, which was chaired by Kiplagat. So I've always been an advocate for transitional justice. I don't know what the critics are talking about, but if that's what they are saying, they are dead wrong.
But is it a political game, or because some critics say that the competition is a political campaign tool?
Yeah, I think anything we do in this country is bound to be politicized at this point in time. But I just want to let you know that if you talk to the victims or their families or their loved ones, you will realize that it is not a political game. I think those Kenyans who are affected are anxiously awaiting for us to respond, to give them the support that they need. I have heard a few comments here and there from our friends on the other side of the political spectrum. Obviously, it's a democracy. People can speak and say what they want to say, but they have not made a credible argument about this particular initiative. I have to say, as I said before, it's historic, it's unprecedented, and it's really not been done anywhere in Africa. Even in South Africa, where they had the Truth Commission, which was chaired by Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who is an icon. Not much was accomplished. They ended up having what has been called a Kleenex Commission. People would come there, they would tell their stories about what happened to them. There would be a few tears. They would be given a Kleenex to wipe their tears, and they'll be sent away, virtually with nothing. Here, in our instance, we are taking concrete steps to relieve families of victims of their loved ones of the pain that they are suffering. And we believe that the country is behind us. Just yesterday here, I'm sure you're aware of this fact, the Chief Justice was here, Chief Justice Malakome, and she, without equivocation, supported this particular initiative and gave her stamp of approval of it and a vote of confidence for what we are doing. So I think if you look across the political spectrum, the legislature is supporting this effort, obviously the executive is supporting it, and the judiciary, and obviously the families of the victims and their loved ones. And I would like to think that the majority of Kenyans are really behind our efforts.
And the duration, how long will it take?
So upon the formation of the panel, we'll start running, and we'll have 120 days. And we'll try to do as much as possible within those 120 days. The names are many. We expect them to be in the thousands, because we'll compensate people for fatal injuries or fatalities, for death. We'll also compensate people for serious injuries, and we'll also be able to address hospital bills.
And also the ones that were arrested, will you release them? Or, because there's some people who were arrested during the protests.
Yes.
Are we going to also take care of them?
So, as I said before, when I was speaking inside, transitional justice mechanisms have several stages. Compensation is just one stage. Prosecution is another. As we speak now, there are cases in court which are being pursued, and we expect that to continue. At the end of our mandate, I think what we'll also do is to make recommendations about the enactment of protest law that can be used by both protesters but also by police forces to clarify the conduct of folks on both sides when there is a protest. We'll also be making recommendations, obviously, about police reform, because that is important. And of course, where necessary, we might make referrals, for prosecutions. So this is a wholesome effort. If you read the top line of the proclamation that the president made, it was quite robust and very bold. It didn't just talk about compensation. Of course, it talked about accountability and transparency and so on, but zeroed in on compensation, which is a very important step, and we think the first step to this process, because families who need help cannot really wait for that help for too long. We need to give it to them as soon as possible.
Prof, one of the themes of the conference is protecting the constitution and the rule of law.
Yes.
Now that you are converted, where is your government in terms of rule of law?
Now that I have converted to what? No, let me tell you something, my brother. There are many ways in which one can serve their country. As you probably know, I have served the country for many, many decades, mostly outside the state. But this government belongs to us. The state belongs to us. And every Kenyan should, in my view, be given a chance to serve the country inside government. I make no apologies about this. I've talked with the president. I think he's genuine, and I think he's committed to transform this country, and I've decided to help him do so.
Well,